Steelers fans, football is officially back in Pittsburgh, and tonight is the moment we've all been waiting for. The preseason opener against the Green Bay Packers is finally here, and this game is absolutely loaded with storylines, position battles, and players who could define the next era of Steelers football. Whether you're watching to see the young guns prove themselves or the veterans shake off the rust, this is must-watch television for the Steelers Nation. Before we break down the 20 players you absolutely need to keep your eyes on tonight, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a single update on your Pittsburgh Steelers. We're bringing you the most in-depth Steelers coverage on YouTube, and trust me, you're going to want to be here for everything that's coming this season. Alright Steelers Nation, let's talk about what tonight really means. Preseason Week 1 isn't just about getting back into football shape or running through basic plays. This is where careers are made and dreams are shattered. This is where roster bubble guys either cement their spot on the 53-man roster or start updating their resumes. This is where rookies announce their arrival and where veterans remind everyone why they're still here. The Steelers are entering a fascinating era right now, with a roster that's a perfect blend of established stars, hungry young talent, and players who are absolutely desperate to prove they belong in the NFL. Mike Tomlin and his coaching staff will be watching every single snap with laser focus, evaluating not just physical talent, but football IQ, effort, and that intangible factor that separates practice squad players from Sunday contributors. Tonight's game against Green Bay gives us our first real look at how the off-season moves are translating to the field. We've heard all the camp reports, we've seen the practice highlights, we've listened to the coaches talk about who's impressing them, but none of that matters until these guys line up against another team wearing different colors. The Packers bring their own set of talented players and coaching schemes, which means the Steelers will face real NFL competition, even if most of the star players won't see extended action. What we're really looking for tonight is which players rise to the moment when the lights come on and which ones shrink when the pressure hits. Let's start with the quarterback position, because even though we know who the starter is, there's so much intrigue behind center. The backup quarterback battle is absolutely critical for this organization. You need a reliable number 2 who can step in if something happens to your starter. And you also want to evaluate whether any of these young signal callers have a future in Pittsburgh or could become valuable trade assets down the road. Watch how these quarterbacks handle the offense when they get their opportunities. Are they making quick decisions? Are they showing touch on their deep balls? How do they react when the pocket collapses and they're forced to make plays outside of structure? Preseason is where quarterbacks can showcase their processing speed and their ability to go through progressions against live competition. Pay attention to their communication at the line of scrimmage, their ability to get the offense in and out of huddles efficiently, and whether they're putting the ball in dangerous spots or protecting it like it's gold. The quarterback who shows the most command and makes the fewest mistakes will separate himself from the pack. Now let's talk about the wide receiver position, because this might be the most competitive position battle on the entire roster. The Steelers have their established top guys, but beyond that, there are probably 6 or 7 receivers fighting for maybe 2 or 3 roster spots. These guys know that every target tonight matters. Every route they run is being graded. Every block they throw in the run game is being noticed. Tonight is their chance to show they belong in an NFL offense, and the ones who capitalize on their opportunities will be wearing black and gold come September. Watch for the receivers who are creating separation at the line of scrimmage, the ones who are catching everything thrown their way, and especially the ones who are making plays after the catch. The Steelers love receivers who can take a 5-yard slant and turn it into a 15-yard gain through sheer toughness and elusiveness. Also, pay close attention to which receivers are contributing on special teams, because if you're a bubble guy at this position, you better be running down on kickoff coverage like your life depends on it, because frankly, your NFL career does depend on it. One specific receiver to watch is that young speedster who's been turning heads all training camp. You know exactly who I'm talking about, the guy who's been making veteran defensive backs look silly with his route running and his ability to track the deep ball. Tonight is his opportunity to translate those practice reps into game action. Can he do it against a Packers secondary that's going to be physical with him? Can he maintain his focus for an entire game? The Steelers desperately need playmakers on the outside who can stretch the field and create explosive plays. And if this kid shows he can do that consistently, he's going to force his way onto this roster regardless of how crowded that receiver room is. The running back position is another area loaded with competition. Obviously the starter is set, but behind him there are multiple guys fighting for backup roles and that all-important special teams spot. Watch how these running backs pass protect tonight, because that's often the difference maker for young guys trying to make a roster. A running back who can pick up a blitz and give the quarterback an extra second to throw is worth his weight in gold in this league. Also, pay attention to their vision and patience. Are they pressing the line of scrimmage too quickly, or are they letting blocks develop and then hitting the hole with explosion? The Steelers have always valued intelligent runners who understand leverage and blocking schemes, not just guys who rely on pure athleticism. Tonight will reveal which backs have been studying their playbook and which ones are still playing off instinct alone. There's also that undrafted rookie running back who's been making noise in camp. The guy who runs with an edge and isn't afraid to lower his shoulder and initiate contact. The Steelers love that mentality, and if he can show that same physicality against Green Bay while also demonstrating he can catch the ball out of the backfield and contribute in pass protection, he could be one of the surprise stories of this preseason. Don't sleep on this kid, because undrafted guys with chips on their shoulders sometimes end up being the most productive players on the roster. Let's move to the offensive line, where there are some genuinely fascinating battles happening. The starting five might be mostly settled, but depth is absolutely crucial on the offensive line, and there are several young guys trying to prove they can be that swing tackle or that backup interior lineman who can play multiple positions. Tonight, we're watching for technique, for footwork, for hand placement, and for that mental toughness that separates good offensive linemen from great ones. When a defensive lineman beats you with a move, how do you respond on the next play? Do you let it shake your confidence, or do you come back even more determined? Offensive line play is as much about mentality as it is about physical talent, and the coaches are evaluating who has that relentless, nasty streak that defines Steelers' offensive linemen. One specific offensive lineman to monitor is that mid-round draft pick who has been working at multiple positions. Versatility is incredibly valuable for roster bubble guys, and if he can show competence at both guard and tackle, he dramatically increases his chances of making the team. Watch his performance in both the run game and pass protection. Is he generating movement at the point of attack? Is he sustaining his blocks through the whistle? These details matter enormously when the coaching staff sits down to make final roster decisions. On the defensive side of the ball, the edge rusher position is absolutely loaded with intrigue. The Steelers are always hunting for that next great pass rusher, and there are several young guys in camp who are trying to prove they can contribute in that area. Tonight is about more than just racking up sacks, although obviously those help. It's about showing a variety of pass rush moves, demonstrating the ability to set the edge in the run game, and displaying the kind of relentless motor that Steelers defenders are known for. Watch for which edge rushers are using their hands effectively to defeat blocks, which ones have a plan on every snap rather than just relying on speed, and which ones are pursuing the ball with everything they've got, even when the play is going away from them. There's a young edge rusher who went undrafted but has been absolutely dominating one-on-one drills in training camp. He's got that explosive first step and a devastating speed-to-power conversion that gets offensive tackles on their heels. If he can translate that camp success to tonight's game, he could force the coaching staff to find a roster spot for him, even if it means making some difficult decisions elsewhere. The Steelers have a history of finding diamond-in-the-rough pass rushers, and this kid has all the tools to be the next one. The interior defensive line is another area where we're going to see serious competition tonight. The Steelers need guys who can clog running lanes, penetrate gaps, and collapse the pocket from the inside. Watch for which defensive tackles are consistently winning their one-on-one matchups, which ones are showing the stamina to play multiple snaps in a row without their performance declining, and which ones are communicating effectively with the linebackers behind them. Defensive line play requires both individual dominance and collective coordination, and the players who understand the chess match will stand out tonight. At linebacker, there's a ton to watch beyond the obvious starters. The depth at this position is being tested, and several young linebackers are fighting for backup roles and core special teams positions. Tonight, we're evaluating their ability to diagnose plays quickly, their tackling technique in space, and their coverage ability against running backs and tight ends. Modern NFL linebackers have to be able to do everything, and the Steelers need guys who are equally comfortable blitzing, dropping into coverage, and filling gaps against the run. Watch for the linebackers who are playing with controlled aggression, the ones who are flying to the football but staying disciplined within the scheme. There's a specific linebacker, a rookie who fell further in the draft than he should have due to some minor injury concerns, who has been lighting up practice with his instincts and his sideline-to-sideline speed. If he stays healthy and plays with the same intensity tonight that he's shown in camp, he could be one of the steals of this draft class. The Steelers have a brilliant track record of developing linebackers, and this kid has all the raw materials to become a core special teams player this year and potentially a starting caliber linebacker down the road. In the secondary, the cornerback battles are absolutely must-watch television tonight. Beyond the established starters, there are multiple corners competing for the third and fourth cornerback spots, nickel responsibilities, and dime package roles. In today's NFL, you can never have enough quality cornerbacks, and the Steelers are looking for guys who can press at the line of scrimmage, mirror receivers in man coverage, and also have the football IQ to play zone concepts. Watch for which cornerbacks are getting their heads around to locate the football, which ones are being physical within the rules, and which ones have the recovery speed to make up for occasional mistakes. Cornerback is one of the hardest positions in football, and the guys who show both confidence and technique tonight will earn more playing time as the preseason progresses. One cornerback to specifically monitor is that young guy who has incredible athleticism but is still learning the nuances of NFL coverage schemes. He's got the speed and the ball skills to be a legitimate NFL starter eventually, but can he put it all together against Green Bay's receivers tonight? The Steelers' coaching staff is patient with developing cornerbacks, but they need to see consistent improvement and a willingness to learn from mistakes. If this kid has a couple of nice pass breakups or, even better, creates a turnover, the hype around him is going to reach another level in Steelers Nation. At safety, there are some really interesting names competing for roster spots and playing time. The Steelers need safeties who can play deep middle field, come down and support in the run game, and also match up with tight ends in coverage. It's an incredibly demanding position that requires both physical toughness and mental processing. Tonight, watch for safeties who are communicating pre-snap, getting the defense lined up correctly, and then making plays on the ball. The safeties who can be quarterbacks of the defense while also making impact plays are the ones who will rise through the depth chart. Special teams is going to be a huge focus tonight, even though casual fans sometimes overlook this phase. The Steelers are evaluating punters, kickers, long snappers, and all the coverage and return specialists. A significant percentage of roster spots are determined by special teams contributions, so watch for which players are consistently making tackles on coverage units, which returners are showing the vision and courage to make decisive moves, and whether the specialists are handling the pressure of game situations. One bad snap, one missed kick, one breakdown in coverage can literally cost a player his job, so the specialists are under enormous pressure tonight, even though it's just preseason. There's a young kicker in camp who has been absolutely booming the ball in practice, showing both distance and accuracy on field goals. The Steelers have been searching for consistency at the kicker position, and if this guy can prove he's reliable in pressure situations, he could solve a problem that's plagued the team in recent years. Watch his approach to the ball, his follow-through, and most importantly, whether the ball is splitting the uprights. Kickers have to have short memories and strong mental games, so let's see if this kid has what it takes. Another player who absolutely demands your attention tonight is that defensive back who's been working with both the safety and cornerback groups. This kind of versatility is incredibly valuable in modern NFL defenses that use multiple sub-packages and matchup-specific schemes. If he can show competence at multiple positions and also contribute on special teams, he's going to make the roster almost regardless of how crowded the secondary is. coaching staffs love players who give them flexibility, and this guy checks all those boxes. Let's talk about one of the tight ends fighting for a roster spot, specifically that athletic move tight end who can create mismatches in the passing game. The Steelers have always utilized tight ends heavily in their offensive scheme, and they're looking for guys who can be both reliable targets and effective blockers. Tonight, watch whether this tight end is running crisp routes, creating separation at the top of his routes, and most importantly, catching everything thrown his way. Tight ends who have concentration drops in preseason rarely survive final cuts. Also, his blocking will be scrutinized heavily, because if you can't block as a tight end in a Steelers offense, you're not making this team. There's also a fullback-type player in camp who represents a bit of a throwback style, but could provide the Steelers with some interesting package possibilities. While true fullbacks are rare in modern NFL offenses, having a versatile player who can lead block, catch passes out of the backfield, and contribute on special teams is always valuable. If he has a strong showing tonight, the Steelers might get creative with how they use him throughout the season. Don't overlook the offensive lineman who's been working exclusively at center after playing guard in college. The Steelers are always developing offensive line depth, and having a backup center who can also play guard in emergency situations is crucial for weathering the injury attrition that happens every NFL season. Watch his shotgun snaps for consistency, his ability to make line calls and adjustments pre-snap, and his blocking technique both in pass protection and on run plays. Center is a cerebral position that requires instant processing, and we'll find out tonight whether this young player has developed enough in that area to be trusted. Another defender who's been generating buzz is that linebacker/safety hybrid, who can cover slot receivers and tight ends, while also having the size to take on blockers near the line of scrimmage. The Steelers have used these hybrid defenders effectively in the past, and if this player shows he can handle the mental complexity of playing multiple roles within the same game, he could carve out a significant role in the defense. Watch for his recognition skills, his ability to change direction smoothly, and his tackling in space.
We also need to pay attention to that wide receiver who's been in the league a couple of years, but is fighting for his career after being released by another team and picked up by Pittsburgh.
He knows this is potentially his last chance to stick in the NFL, and players with that desperation often perform at their absolute highest level in preseason games. Watch whether he's making the routine plays and then adding some spectacular ones on top of that. He needs to show he's not just physically capable, but that he's mentally locked in and willing to do the dirty work that keeps receivers on NFL rosters. At defensive tackle, there's a young player who has incredible power at the point of attack, but needs to improve his conditioning and his pass rush repertoire. The Steelers are monitoring whether he can maintain his effectiveness for longer stretches and whether he's developed any counter moves when his initial bull rush gets stalled. Defensive tackles, who can only win with power, are limited in today's NFL, so we need to see some evolution in his game tonight. The final player I want to highlight is that edge defender who has elite speed but needs to prove he can do more than just run around offensive tackles. Speed rushers are valuable, but NFL tackles will eventually figure out your one move. So you need to develop power, you need to have counter moves, and you need to be effective in the run game. Tonight is his opportunity to show the coaching staff that he's been working on the complete package and isn't just a one-dimensional speed rusher. What makes tonight so compelling is that none of these players are guaranteed anything. The roster is fluid, competition is everywhere, and the coaching staff is looking for reasons to promote guys or cut guys. One incredible play can launch a career. One mental mistake at a crucial moment can end a dream. That's the beauty and the brutality of preseason football, especially Week 1 when everyone's getting their first opportunity to impress. The Packers are going to provide legitimate competition, even though their starters won't play extended minutes either. Their backup and roster bubble players are fighting for jobs just like the Steelers players are, which means we're going to see maximum effort, aggressive play calling, and players leaving everything on the field. This won't be a vanilla, boring preseason game. This will be dozens of young men fighting for their professional lives, and that always produces entertaining, intense football. From a schematic standpoint, we'll get our first look at any new wrinkles the Steelers coaching staff has added to the offense and defense. Preseason is when coordinators test out new concepts and see how they work with live tackling and real game situations. Don't be surprised if you see some formations or plays you haven't seen from Pittsburgh before. The coaching staff uses preseason to experiment, to evaluate which new concepts might work during the regular season, and to give players experience running diverse schemes. The atmosphere tonight at the stadium is going to be electric because Steelers Nation has been starving for football. Even though this is preseason, the fans will pack that stadium and create an incredible environment. There's nothing quite like Steelers football, and even in August, the passion and energy from the fan base is unmatched in professional sports. The players feeding off that energy, especially the young guys experiencing it for the first time, often produces some magical moments. For the Steelers organization, tonight starts the evaluation process that will ultimately determine the 53-man roster. Mike Tomlin and his staff will review every snap of film from this game, grading every player, noting who elevated their game and who didn't. The players know this, which is why you'll see extraordinary effort even in the fourth quarter when third and fourth string guys are still battling. Nobody wants to be the player who took a play off or showed poor effort on film that the coaches will review all week. Tonight also gives the medical staff crucial information about which players are holding up physically and which ones might have concerning injury patterns. Preseason is about building toward week 1 of the regular season, and the training staff is monitoring everything from how players recover between series to how they're moving late in the game when fatigue sets in. This information helps them design personalized training programs and manage workloads throughout the season. The quarterback evaluation tonight extends beyond just the stats. The coaching staff will analyze decision-making, leadership, poise under pressure, and the intangibles that separate adequate backup quarterbacks from guys you actually trust if they have to play meaningful snaps. Watch the body language of the quarterbacks when things aren't going well. Do they stay engaged on the sideline? Are they communicating with the coaches about what they're seeing? Are they being positive leaders with their teammates? These factors matter enormously in the evaluation process. For the wide receivers battling for spots, tonight is about creating a highlight reel that the coaches can't ignore when they make final cuts. One acrobatic catch, one perfectly run route that creates huge separation, one spectacular play after the catch. These are the moments that stick in evaluators' minds when they're making difficult roster decisions. The receivers who make multiple splash plays tonight will create separation in a very crowded competition. The offensive line evaluation tonight is particularly critical because you're never quite sure what you have up front until you see these guys against another team's defensive fronts. The Steelers need to identify which young offensive linemen can be trusted to come in if injuries strike during the season. Offensive line depth is one of the most important factors in whether a team can sustain success over a full season, so tonight's performance from the backup linemen carries enormous weight. On defense, the pass rush evaluation is always fascinating because generating pressure on the quarterback is so crucial to modern NFL success. The Steelers have built their identity on dominant defense, and finding young edge rushers and interior rushers who can contribute is essential to maintaining that identity. Watch for the defenders who show multiple pass rush moves, the ones who don't give up on plays even when they don't get home with a sack, and the ones who are also setting edges and stopping the run. Complete defenders who can help in multiple phases are what the Steelers are hunting for. The linebacker play tonight will reveal a lot about the depth at this crucial position. Steelers linebackers have always been held to an incredibly high standard, and the young guys trying to make this roster understand they're trying to join a legendary lineage. Watch for linebackers who are playing with controlled violence, who are communicating constantly with their teammates, and who are making plays sideline to sideline. The Steelers need linebackers who can match up athletically with modern offensive weapons while also being tough enough to take on blockers and make plays in the run game. In the secondary, the cornerback and safety evaluations are interconnected because the Steelers need to build a cohesive unit that communicates and works together. Tonight will show which young defensive backs are learning the system, trusting their technique and making plays on the ball. The secondary is often where games are won and lost in today's pass-heavy NFL, so identifying quality depth at these positions is critical. Special teams evaluation tonight goes way beyond just the kicker and punter. The Steelers need to identify which players are willing to run down on coverage with reckless abandon, which returners have the vision and decisiveness to create explosive plays, and which players bring the special teams mentality that wins field position battles. Don't be surprised if some of the players who make the roster do so primarily because of their special teams contributions. Those core 4 or 5 special teams players on every roster are incredibly valuable, even if casual fans don't always appreciate their importance. As we get ready for kickoff, the excitement is building because we finally get to see real football again. All the training camp reports, all the speculation, all the debates about roster spots, now we get actual game film to analyze and discuss. Tonight starts the process of discovering which players will be core contributors for this Steelers team and which ones won't make it through final cuts.
某新闻图南更出那码头，你记他们中头，感动完 taken spending， 梦中汹涌杀干的头脑，马桶的梦是梦，你见的我梦，长城松针，南方的梦真的明朝，平时中正准本，天从浪，中将通龙，你神州，那你能人，那看板就能天通通报，那看到的那看他。 上交老生通通，老通通，老头碰通通，看通通通通，老通通，随地当晚。
Every player on that roster tonight believes they can make the team, believes they can have a great career, believes this is their moment. By the end of preseason, many of those dreams will be shattered, but tonight, anything is possible. That hope and desperation creates an intensity that makes preseason football must-watch television for true football fans. Steelers Nation, tonight is finally here. 20 players, countless dreams, one roster. Who's going to seize their opportunity? Who's going to shrink under the bright lights? Who's going to make the play that launches their NFL career? We're about to find out, and you're not going to want to miss a single snap of this game. Make sure you're watching closely because the players who shine tonight could be the same players making crucial plays in January when the games really matter. The future of this Steelers team is being shaped right now, in this preseason opener, with these roster battles and position competitions. Drop a comment below and let me know which player you're most excited to watch tonight. Are you focused on those wide receiver battles? Are you excited to see the young pass rushers? Are you watching the quarterback competition? I want to hear from Steelers Nation about who you think is going to have a breakout performance tonight. And if you enjoyed this breakdown and want more in-depth Steelers coverage throughout this entire season, smash that like button and make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on. We're going to be here every single day bringing you the latest news, the deepest analysis, and the most passionate Steelers coverage on all of YouTube. Tonight is just the beginning. Steelers Nation. Let's go get this win, and let's see which of these 20 players are going to define the future of Pittsburgh Steelers football. Here we go.